Nidal, the thing with New York City, and everyone should live there once in their life to kind of to feel it, right? It's like the insane energy, the competition, the excitement is palpable. You don't find that anywhere else in the world. No question, right? And when I first moved there when I was 17 to go to CIA, and like I first flew in, and at that point the Twin Towers was still there, and I was like landing at LaGuardia, and you look around and you walk outside, and like you know how like your hair starts to rise, and it's like, this is incredible, and that made a huge impression on me forever. And I said, okay, in Italia, I was doing 18-hour days working at a very high level with people that I ended up loving, and I was like, if we can translate that into this city, then like I think we can do something very special, right?
Have you decided what you're gonna get?
Oh yeah, definitely we're gonna get one of each.
One of each. Got it.
Dia de los Muertos, right? That's what it's from. Dia de los Muertos.
Yes.
What's the name of that? What's the name of that Pixar film? My kids love that film.
Come on.
Come on. Yeah. Come on.
Coco.
I gotta see that so many times, then.
Yeah, I watched it once, so nice, but it's good because it has that cultural thing.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, and talking about culture and everything that we do, we are here at another episode of One of Each. So thank you everybody for being here. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube, like us, subscribe. We are in all streaming platforms. So thanks again for being here with us, for supporting, and for bearing with our conversations about life and food. And today, Stefano is here with me, Stefano Secchi from Rezdôra and Massara in New York, and who knows what else in the future, no? So thank you, Stefano, for being here.
It's great.
Let me know, we were talking about before your adventure yesterday to get here. So you were in this amazing lunch, and then tell us a little bit.
So Daniel Boulud turned 70, right? And so we've been planning this out for a long time. There's going to be a big party, which we're also planning right now, but it's more of like, it was a smaller group, right? So I was like, okay, I have a podcast with Nidal. I have a flight, 3:30 p.m. I'm at Le Bernardin, John George, Danielle, Angie Marr, Sebastian, Eric Repair. This is a crazy group of people sitting at the table, right? And we're like, they're starting with the champagne. Danielle's in his element. It's just so great to be there. So I'm looking at my clock every 10 minutes because I hate, I have to be at least an hour and a half early because that's just how it's always like, you never know, right? And so okay, so they've dropped the first course, amuse, and then we go to the second course. We had like a crudo dentice, which is snapper, right, with hearts of palm, and then we go to the third course was like slow cooked granchio crab with black truffle, and then we go to the fourth course was like barely cooked faro salmon with caviar and horseradish. It was so delicious, right? And so I'm like, okay, I probably have this fourth course, and then via like I have to leave, right? And I'm talking to Danielle, and we were just talking about life and like what he's thinking, talking to John George about Margot, his new, private space in meatpacking, and what Danielle's doing next, and Sebastian. Anyway, it's just the conversation is amazing. We're talking. He's telling us about his time at Le Cirque when he was coming up, and how things have changed in the city, but how things are still the same. But we're sitting at this unbelievable table. I have to get up and go. And basically, I grabbed the car.
At that time, probably you were hating me like, oh man, Nidal, I gotta go see Nidal and then cook with Bernardo.
Because you know what happens is like the red wine was just being poured. And I was like, okay, so now we're getting into like, heftier fish courses. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this one. I was like, no, but anyway. So I got in the car and I arrived to LaGuardia. I literally go check the bag and then I look at my phone. Flight has been updated 2 hours late. I was like, cuts. Okay. So that's fine. I'm like, whatever, fine. I'm here now. Yeah. Like maybe by the time I get back, it'll be an hour and whatever to get back to Le Bernardin, and they're going to be finished by then. But so I go sit down and then I look at the phone again, another hour delayed, so 5 hours delayed for this flight. And I'm like, this doesn't happen, at Delta.
You could have had the full meal.
It would have been the full meal.
Yeah. Arrive to the airport 1 hour before.
Tranquilamente, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I hate the most is I mean, I know there's so many factors, but like if they tell you in the morning, you know what, your flight is delayed 5 hours, you say, okay, you make a decision, you go, you change your flight for the next day. But that game of 1 hour, it happened to me recently with American Airlines, which I said I'm not gonna fly with them anymore, but I have so many miles that I want to use. So every time I'm like, oh, here I am again. But anyway.
No, that's so true. We all deal with this. This is like this is the stress, right?
And everybody, I'm sure you get this all the time. Like, oh, I love your job. You're always traveling and hotels and everything. Like, at some point, you're like, no, guys, I want to say, like.
You want to stay home.
I want to stay home.
I was 1:30. I arrived here 1:30 last night. And then, like, of course, you get situated 2 o'clock by the time you go to bed. And then, I mean, I have kids right now. So, like, my kids are up at 5. So I can only sleep 4 or 5 hours anyway. So then I'm up and then I hear from them. And, you know, it's just like, Padre, Figliolo, Spirito Santo. Anyway, it's great to be here.
Anyway, you're here. We're here. Thanks again for coming. You have an amazing dinner tonight with Bernardo at Torno Subito. Bernardo was here in the podcast last season. We had an amazing conversation. So yeah, let's again, happy to have you, and we want to start with what drove you to the kitchen. I know it's an easy thing to think about if you have Italian heritage, Italian parents. So tell me a little bit about this, because you were born and you grew up in Texas, right?
Yeah, but it's not. But when you say it's an easy thing with Italian heritage, it's not, right? I think that, like, for especially Italian immigrants, my whole family was pushing away from it, right? They said, we're here in the States, so you don't go in the restaurants, right? And that was very important for them. They're like, we want you to have an education, we want you to go to university. I mean, they came from nothing, right? My father was 18 when he left Sardinia. All of my family's still over there. Like, he's one of 8 brothers and sisters, so I have, you know, aunts and uncles, cousins, everyone's still over there. He was the only one that came, right? And
your mom is Italian too?
She's from England, my mom.
Oh.
So they met on the cruise ships. They moved to Miami. That's why I love Miami, because all started here.
No way.
They moved here while they were working on the cruise ships. They bought a house in Pembroke Pines. Unbelievable. Way before I was born. And then...
That probably cost them like $35,000 or something.
Now they look, they're like, what happened?
Yeah.
You know? So they moved here. I love Miami. Now, Miami's changed so much in the past 10 to 15 years. It's unbelievable.
For the better, yeah.
Amazing. The culture has become next level. So, but they moved here. Then they got back on the cruise ships and they moved to California. They opened a place in California. They didn't love the people. It was Westlake Village. And so they were driving around. They knew some friends in Texas. They moved to Texas, or they were touring Texas. They said, this reminds my dad most of Sardinia. I don't know how. I still ask him to this day, and I don't know
Where
how.
In Texas?
Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah. But they said the people were so nice, and you know, Cibo Italiano didn't really exist at all over there, right? And so they opened there. I have 2 brothers. But we used to spend 4 to 5 months out of the year in Italia every year, and then, you know, 7 to 8 months going to school in Texas. So for me, it was much different upbringing than, like, I couldn't go. I went with my friends during the summertime. Like, I wasn't playing sports with them. I was in Sardinia, Lombardia, Emilia Romagna, you know, Liguria, Piemonte, Toscana, like up and down the peninsula, because my parents wanted to get rid of us, which I get, which I totally get, right? And
Summer,
then
go.
Get out of here, via. And then B, you know, we needed to speak the language, so that was very important. Yeah.
And having both, like, English from England and Italian background, and how was at home, like? Did you feel more English or Italian or American growing up? Like, how was that mix of
way more
cultures?
Way more Italian, because, like, the thing with us, you know the stereotype, right, of us. The Italians, we all get together on Sunday. For instance, like, we would start 2 p.m., right? Football would be on TV, and then calcio, one of the 2. And then we would start making dinner. There's 4 real Italian families whose fathers and or mothers were from Italia that lived in Dallas. There's like 4 of us. It was unbelievable. There's like 4 million people. 4 of them were like genuine Italiano. They'd come over. We'd start bocce, right? We'd have, you know, we'd have like a braise of ossobuco or like maiale in the oven or something. All the pasta would be made. Antipasto was being passed, salumi formaggio. And so like that would be our Sunday, right?
Okay.
While Calcio was on. And so like
Watching Juventus probably kill it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I was a Juventino forever.
Yeah.
So like for me, it was like, you know, I'm sitting there with all these families around. The only American influence I have is when we go to school during the week. And so we were like, you know, school, we didn't really fit in with many of the American kids, although I started playing basketball because I became tall later and all these things. But you know, it was different for us because we were playing bocce on Sundays. We were like, I was bringing like antipasto to lunch with like, you know, roasted peppers and pork. You're not going to trade that for a fruit roll up, right? People don't,
exactly.
they don't want anything to do with you, right? And so, way more Italiano to answer your question. And I don't know, that's probably what shaped me a lot, even though I used to push back against that a lot.
What drove you? Because one thing is, okay, I love food and there's a love for food in the family and we'll gather on Sunday. That's one thing. But thinking, okay, I'm going to dedicate my life to this work, to this
industry.
this art, no?
Yeah, the industry, yeah. When my parents had restaurants, right? The issue that we had is that they said, you know, I couldn't go into the restaurant business until I went to CIA. I was 17 years old. I went to CIA. And then I went to go work in the city. I was like super young.
How old were you?
I was 18 at that point in the city, right? And I was working at Flea at 58th and 2nd. I did externship there and then worked after. And then my parents said, you have to get a regular, you know, undergrad degree. So I went back down to Texas. I started working at the restaurants. And so for them, for me, you know, it was strange because when I was always, you know, I mean, people say the cliche, like when you're cooking with your nonna, but it's true. And with my father as well, my dad's best friend was our first chef was from Campania, Calabria, right? It was the only time in my life where I was like truly engaged and really focused, right? Because I could be at school, listen to social studies and English and fine. I mean, I did my schoolwork, but I was never like really excited about these things, right? But when you sit down and you're making macaroni al pettine, you're doing like maloredo con gnocchetti sardi or like culgiones with your nonna, or like you're doing tortellini in Emilia Romagna, or like agnolotte in Piemonte, or like risotto in Lombardia. Like you have these things where like you have this moment in your life where you're like fully engaged and they become, you know, memories and taste memories, right? And those things were most impactful for me.
Okay.
You know?
And do you remember was there like a tipping point where you thought, okay, I'm going to do this for a living? Or I'm good at this, or I don't want to do anything else?
No, I mean, luckily, you know, my parents had really low expectations for me. So anything that went above it was great. So, I think that the main thing for me, the tipping point was when I ended up I took a year off to get 2 years off to get a regular job. But my parents asked me to do this, right? To get a regular job. And it was in corporate America. We won't talk about it. One of you guys we can reach out about it later, but I won't bore you with it. So, but I sat in front of that screen and I was like, my God, I've never been, I mean, I learned so much in those years, but I've never been so miserable in my life. You miss like working, you know, La Sfoglia. You miss like working with your hands. You miss like the job cooking. It's still blue collar, right? You wake up in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock. You receive all the produce, right? You have a mise en place list. You have a mise en place you have to set. You have a prep list you have to do.
Yeah.
You have your first espresso at like 7:45, right? You put on Giovanotti, or you put on old Italian music, or you put on Led Zeppelin, or you put on 90s hip hop, right? And you're prepping. And I remember like at Rezdôra, I was doing everything by myself in the beginning. No one was around for like 5 hours.
Wow.
It's magical, right? You ever seen the movie Soul?
Yeah.
When you know where he gets, where he's like playing the piano, he's in a flow state. That was it. That was the only time in my life. Those were the only times in my life where I ever reached that state where I was just like, it was automatic for me, right? And you wouldn't even think about it. And you would sit back after like 5 hours and everything was done. Like braisings were being done in the oven. Like the ragus were being simmered. And like salsa pomodoro was being finished. And like all the mozzarella had been rolled out. You know, la sfoglia was resting, or tagliatelle was about to be cut. And you look back and you're like, oh, all the prep is set for this afternoon. It was amazing.
Nice. And when did you open Rezdôra?
2018.
2018.
Yeah, right after Italia.
Nice. Well, so let's go back to that because we have many friends in common. One of them is Massimo Bottura, with whom you worked some years. Tell us a little bit about your time in Italy. I don't know if all those years you were working with Massimo, you did something else before or after.
Yeah. So I went to when I finished this this corporate job or whatever, I went to go work for Nancy Silverton in Los Angeles because I had always heard great things about her. I wanted to eat the produce in California. I moved to 21st and Wilshire in Santa Monica because I wanted to be as close as I could to the farmer's market, right? So it was like 10 blocks from our house. I lived in a house with like 7 guys. It was unbelievable time. I mean,
all in the food industry or different?
No, some were actors, some were like directors, some were in music production. One of the guys shot the Wu-Tang documentary. It was like these guys became great friends of mine. Some were in tech. It was just so crazy. But like I'd work at Mozza 5 days a week, right? And then I have 2 days off. I go to the farmer's market and we would just do blowout dinners for everyone. I mean, it was so fun, right?
Nice.
And after that, I was like, I did that for like, I think 1.5 years, 2 years. And after I was like, I have to go back to Italia because I wasn't eating the food. Nancy, by the way, Osteria Mozza is an amazing restaurant. I mean, it's still an amazing restaurant and she's an amazing human being, an amazing chef. And
she's great.
She's great.
Inspiring.
I still consider her one of the best restaurants, Italian restaurants, especially true in the country. So I was eating, food in the States, and I was like, I miss like, eating tortellini and brodo, tagliatelle, tortelloni, burro salvia, gurgiones, Anyway, you're going forever. So I said, I'm just going to go back to Italia. I've always had dual citizenship, grazie al mio padre, thanks to my father. But I remember, I'll never forget, we talked about those taste memories, right? When I was first going to Emilia Romagna, that tortellini and brodo, we ate outside of Bologna with my family, and I never forgot it, right? So I was like, I just have to go to Emilia Romagna. It's going to either be Bologna or Modena, and I just chose Modena. And it wasn't, I went to go visit first, and I tried 30 different trattorias to find what I thought was the best pasta.
Okay.
And I ended up hearing about this place called Osteria Giusti, and they only had 4 tables, and they're only open for lunch only 5 days a week, and I could never get a reservation, Nidal, and it used to drive me crazy. So I would show up, and they'd be like, cazzo, americano di nuovo, like the American guy again. Like, and I was like, no, but io posso parlare italiano. Hai per caso una tavola per pranzo oggi? Like, do you guys have a table for one today? And they were like, no. Finally, I went back and they said, we had a cancellation come. And so I sat down at this table by myself. I ordered 7 primi. I was like, I don't want any secondi. Antipasto, gnocco fritto, va bene. I want 7 pastas. Yeah. And so they coursed out the pastas for me. And I had tagliolini with asparagi and parmigiano and burro, like 4 ingredients. And I ate this and I said, okay, the search is over.
Exactly.
And so one day we'll talk about this and get really deep, but I asked La Laura, the nonna there, if I could have a job 4 or 5 times, and she said no. Okay. And finally, like the 5th time, where I had gone to eat every time too, she was like, okay, if you stop bothering me, I'll see you in April. So
nice.
That's how it started,
Amazing. And I love Trattoria Bianca in Modena.
Amazing food.
I love that place. It's great, like such a small city compared to, you're in New York, I'm in Miami, and you go to Modena and it's like everybody knows each other. It's like few streets, every corner, amazing place. Of course, from Osteria Francescana, which is, of course, the most known restaurant in Modena. But even you go to Franceschetta or those little trattorias. I love Trattoria Bianca. the one in front of the Albinelli Market. What's the name? The one you have to.
Because you go to the second floor. I don't remember, but that's delicious
that place
too.
is amazing, and you eat there for like 12 euros. You're like, really? Like, this is ridiculous.
Then there's D'Enzo. The gelaterias are amazing too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And how long do you stay there before?
So when I was at Giusti and Antica Mocha for a year. So what I did is that Giusti was in the morning. I used to go with Laura to Mercato Albinelli every morning, and I used to carry all the bags. We used to go pick up Al Capone. We used to go pick up whatever beautiful, the macellai, whatever beautiful meat for lunch. We used to pick up all the verdure and la fruta vendolo, like the bancone there. And then we would have Parmigiano and ricotta delivered from a local casufficio, still warm, by the way, unbelievable. And then I would walk back, and I would walk back with her, and I would carry everything. And that's when I learned to roll mattarello upstairs. And that we used to roll. We didn't have any machine. So there's this big like, I don't know. I mean, there's this big conspiracy about what's better to have machine or mattarello. It's like they're both way different. I mean,
mattarello is the big stick, wooden stick.
Right. So at Giusti, I was rolling mattarello every day, and that's all we did for our pasta program there. When I was with Davide Paluda in Piemonte, when I was with Massimo, we had machines, and so like the beautiful thing with the machine, you can be super precise, and you can do like different shapes that you couldn't, and you can laminate, and you could have al dente texture with your fresh pasta, which people don't believe, but it can be done. Mattarello though. The window was open. It's like summertime in Modena. I'm sweating. It's like unbelievable. You have the fan going. And, I used to roll up there for 45 minutes, an hour and a half just to prep for lunchtime. And then we would do 20 covers every single day, Nidal. Every single day. That's it. 4 tables. And maybe we would open up outside the patio. And then I would go to work at night. And I had to walk to a seafood restaurant outside of Modena to work at night because Austria Giusti they're not going to be like, okay, here we're going to pay you stipendio.
Yeah,
No, you work for free. and so I worked there, and then I worked at night to make a living, and I lived in a hostel. I mean, I lived in a hostel like an hour outside of Modena, which is insane, in Baggiovara. Crazy. And
from there to Osteria.
So after that, I actually moved to Piemonte, because of the wine culture in Piemonte, and there's this starred restaurant called Alanoteca, and Davide Paluda had his star for almost 28 years, and I had one of the best meals of my life there for dinner once during one of my days off, and I was like, man, I have to come find a way. And so then I moved to Piemonte. I met the godfather of my son, Malvira, Giacomo De Monte. He's a winemaker. And so I was in Barolo and Barbaresco every Sunday just drinking. That day was amazing, right? Tartufo Bianco, Tartufo Nero during that season. Like Piemonte food has the influence from Francia. So it's like really, a little more refined in some places, right? And so presentation, we were doing 18-hour days there. I worked every station with Davide. And then I was a year there, and then year and a half, and then I went back to Modena to work with Massimo. And
And how long do you stay there?
Massimo, I was a year and a half, 2 years on and off.
Okay.
I had to come back to the States to make some money, unfortunately.
What year was that in Osteria?
So I think it was I have to check my dates, it was 2016, 2017,
so
right?
Davide was there,
Davide Taka, Davide Taka,
Jessica, yes. Yoji was not there anymore, no?
No, he had just left.
Okay. That was, I with all the respect of the team now that I loved, but that was like the golden generation.
We were number 3 at that point. We had the 3 stars, and I was there with them, and we got to number 1 at that point. But like Pippo was working Secondi, who now runs Cavallino.
Yeah.
Like Vince was in Laboratorio, who now runs Franceschetta.
Exactly.
Guys,
Bernardo
just came back from Istanbul.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that. The team then at that point was unreal.
Yeah, that one thing that I like about and they call it the Francescana family, is that you see I mean, people carrying that torch and doing their own things. I mean, Jess opened Gatto Verde. I'm so looking forward to it. I'm going there in June.
Nice.
Davide Schilini della Gioconda, of course, Taka and Karime in Gucci. You see Mattia in LA, Bernardo here. I mean, it's insane. Like that generation of, and you, of course, in New York, that generation is amazing.
But you know what Massimo did great, and like this should be kind of like a testament to everyone, like especially the cooks coming up right now. Our generation was much tougher, right? We were doing 18-hour, 19-hour days, like 6 out of 7 days all the time.
Yeah.
But as like the Piemonte, when I was working with Davide, the sous chefs were very aggressive, and it was still very much of like the French kind of mentality and brigade system, right? But like the hours were insane. But what Massimo did so well is that he brought everyone together more like a squadra, like a team, and it wasn't individualized, right? And so like if you're going to go down, you're going to go down as the team. It's not going to be one person. And so like you saw times when like people were struggling in different stations. When I first went to Antipasto, I remember we had this piccolo aperitivo, this piccolo assaggino, where it was a cubed eggplant, right? We had to salt it, let it sit for 30 minutes, drain the salt out. With the sifone, we made like a tempura batter. We stuck toothpicks in it, and it was a cube. And so you used to stick you stuck the toothpicks inside, and you put it inside the tempura batter, and then you had to fry it, but you had to spin them, so it became a perfect sphere, right?
Wow.
And so I would spend like, not kidding, it's okay if I like fucking 45 minutes doing these things while everyone was eating family meal, because I wanted to. It needs to be perfect every time. I'm very anal about those things, right? And they're like, Capitano, my nickname became Capitano. That's another story. Capitano, tu devi venire a mangiare cena con noi perché cazzo tu sei sempre attaccato sulla stufa. Is like you're always attached to the stove. Come and eat dinner with us. I was like, no, I'm gonna get this, and I became actually really good after a while.
Perfect circle.
Yes, and the movement, like I keep thinking about it now. I'm like, God, I have like PTSD with this thing, you know. But no one. But I tell you, and this is when I become such good friends with Taka and then Davide, is that like they would eat, and then Taka would come over and he would start spinning them with me, and I'm like the lowest guy on the totem pole. I'm antipasto. I like been there for like 2 or 3 weeks at that point, and he would come over and just be spinning them with me, and it's like, man,
no, they're amazing, great friends.
Definitely.
Now Alan is there. He's and yeah, exactly. No, it's a great family, a great team, and they're seeing them grow now, supported by that amazing group of people, because you cannot grow if you don't have that team to spread and manage all the different restaurants and properties. So that's amazing. So, okay, going back to your path. So you are in Osteria, you're in Modena, you spent altogether in Italy 5 years.
5 years
you mentioned.
in Italy, yeah.
And that's the moment when you said, okay, I gotta go back, I gotta open my own thing in the US. How did that happen? Like what came first? Like you wanting to come back to New York, or the opportunity in New York and hey, there's this space, come get it?
I don't know if I've ever told anyone this, but like there's another story about like I was like dating a girl at the time, and we got engaged in Italia, and I came back to work with Massimo, and then she broke off the engagement, and like she's my wife now. But the story is like it's a telenovela, guys. I'm telling you. And so I moved. To answer your question, the reason why I left Italia is the same reason my father left Italia, and the same things I talked to my cousins about. It's like it's very hard to have upward mobility in Italia, right? Mm-hmm. So I would have stayed in Italia per sempre if the chance to like be able to make a living there full time, right? But I also, what I love about the States is that it's very open minded too. And so I told Lauren, I was like, okay, I'm coming back. Mm-hmm. We're gonna either move back to Los Angeles, or we're gonna go right back to New York. The thing with New York City, Nidal, and everyone should live there once in their life to kind of to feel it, right? It's like the insane energy, the competition, the excitement is palpable. You don't find that anywhere else in the world. No question, right? And when I first moved there when I was 17 to go to CIA, and like I first flew in, and at that point the Twin Towers was still there, and I was like landing at LaGuardia, and you look around and you walk outside, and like you know how like your hair starts to rise, and it's like, this is incredible, and that made a huge impression on me forever. And I said, okay, in Italia, I was doing 18-hour days working at a very high level with people that I ended up loving, and I was like, if we can translate that into this city, then like I think we can do something very special, right? And so, you know, Lauren wanted to go to Los Angeles so bad because it was 75 and sunny. And,
where did you meet Lauren?
We met at a dive bar in Texas.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
That's another story. That's another story. We got to get her on here so she can tell you all about it.
Absolutely. But then, okay, so when you went to Italy, you have already met or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, for me, you know, I was like just focused on work, and her, she's like, listen, if I don't see a future with this guy, I'm out.
Course.
You know, and I get it. So we ended up moving to New York. We lived, I was interviewing for executive chef positions because this recruiter found out about me or something. So she's reaching out. And I was like, yeah, but I just want to cook, you know, like you have to understand, I was doing 30 covers for lunch and dinner in Italia for so long, and I didn't have, I had no idea what New York and what volume was like, right? And besides, like when I went to CIA, when I was working at Felitti at that point, and I remember I trailed at Gramercy Tavern in Maria because I just wanted to be a line cook, and the chef at Maria at that point, Jared Gadbaugh, was like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to be Sue? Do you want?" I was like, "You have all this time in Italia, or whatever." It's like, no, I just want to cook. Like that's it. Like I just want to cook. And he goes, okay. And so it was between those two places, and I thought I could add the most to Maria. We had 2 stars at that time. It was like Michael White's an amazing chef, and so like right when I moved back from Italia, I went to go work at Maria. We lived on my business partner's Murphy bed. He wasn't my business partner then, but he became it, and that's it. And so like I was walking to Maria. My wife was living with me. We had a dog. It was a disaster. It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 500 square foot maybe. And like I was just married, and she was like, okay, this is probably the worst experience of my life. Like maybe I made a mistake. So anyway, we figured it out. But that's just it. And then we cooked dinners, and this space downtown, I wanted to do something dedicato in Emilia Romagna, and I wanted to do something that was like a place that I wanted to go eat at, like Emilia Romagna food, pasta all'uovo, done at a very high level, best ingredients we can get our hands on, small. I want to do something where I could see and control everything. And people were always like, okay, so you're going to open up 3-star Michelin, you know, where do you want to do this in the city? I was like, no. Like we have to do something that is approachable first, because the issue that everyone had at that time, and I don't know if it still exists, but like you wanted to do these really fancy restaurants, but it's like they're amazing. Those things they have their place, right? Yes. But if you're just starting out, it's like incredibly difficult to A, get anyone to invest in you, and then B, have anyone believe that you're going to succeed. And if you fail on the first one like that in New York City, you know, ciao.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
So that was it. We built Rezdôra for nothing. I mean, we just, you know, I was working at Maria still, and
amazing. And now it is what it is. And then you opened Massara like 6 months ago.
Yeah, 8 months ago now. I think right around there, something like that.
Yeah. And talking a little bit more about the personal life now. Fast forward from those times to today. You run 2 restaurants, you have 2 kids, you're traveling quite often for events and everything. How was that transition from, like, at some point you mentioned when you were at Maria, like, I just want to cook, and now probably you have a hard time finding time to, okay, tonight I'm just going to cook. How was that transition from cook to line cook to like father, entrepreneur, restaurant owner?
I mean, people say they always say that the cliches about these things, but it's like it's the single hardest thing that for me that I've had to deal with, because you have to understand, like, I mean, I've been cooking since I was like 12, 13 at my father's restaurant. So maybe you could say 20, 25 years, right? And like, this is why I get so fired up when I talk to like the young cooks. It's like, guys, you guys are so young right now. You have to just focus on just cooking and getting as many reps as you can, and stop wanting to be like executive chef at 23, 24 years old. Put the time in, man. Like go to a new place and then start at the bottom. Be nothing somewhere, right? Yeah, you make you make an amazing reputation somewhere. Like, they know you as a great, dependable. They know you as like someone shows up on time, someone that works hard, and their mise en place and their prep is all done really well. They're great cooks during service. They're fast. These are all things that you look for, especially in Europe. And you need to go through those times, because then you really start missing them. Like, I miss a lot of that. I don't because you're talking about an entrepreneur. Like, I have to look at the P&Ls now all the time, right? I have to look at like payroll and like labor costs and like food costs. My chefs at the restaurant are so tired of me. Like, oh, chef, shut up about like labor this and like food costs that. I'm like,
we're just cooking.
Guys, I'm like, God, I wish I could change spaces with you sometimes. It'd be amazing. I'm gonna get back to, we'll do a project soon where I'm gonna go back and be in the kitchen more often again.
Nice.
I'm there every day, but like to physically be able to cook and get behind the line and work pasta station, for instance, doesn't happen like it used to.
And I have to tell you, I've been to Rezdôra many times and just once to Massara. And if you're in the city, you are there. Like, the times I haven't seen you there is because you are traveling somewhere. So it takes a lot of effort and commitment to do that. So, I applaud you and thanks for doing that. I'm sure your kids sometimes or your wife complain about it, but as a diner, I appreciate it. No, that's it's fantastic. And now, how was because people say like the first restaurant is easy because all your effort, all your focus is there. They say in music, like the second album is the hardest one because the first album, you have all your history as a musician and you put your best song on the first album, and then you have a year and a half to come up with the second album, and that's where the struggles start. Did it happen to you? Like, how was the experience opening Rezdôra, which probably you had it figured out since you were like way younger, to Massara, where you came up with a new concept, still Italian, of course, but how was that process?
So we do regional Italian, right? And first off, we won't open a place unless there's a really good story to tell, because you have to make money, you have to do things to let your team grow, you have to do those, give opportunities to people, but like, unless there's a good story, we won't open something. Danny Meyer used to come to Rezdôra a lot in the beginning and still comes, right? And he lives in the neighborhood. And so I got on the phone with him and we talked for probably like half an hour, 45 minutes. The guy's extremely generous with his time. And the one thing that was really amazing that he, word of advice that he gave is he was like, Stefano, you have to only open a second. He opened Gramercy Tavern like 10 or 12 years after Union Square, right? So it was like a full 10 years at least before we opened Gramercy. Is that first restaurant has to be better when you leave it to open the second. And he said 1 to 2 is one of the hardest things ever. And he couldn't be more right. And doing business in New York is crazy expensive. And, our margins, everyone knows about the margins and these things. So it's like we got to a point where we had so much talent on the team, we were promoting people into positions because they deserve them, right? And Massara has always had a story behind it. It was based on of Campania, and like Uncle Dino, who was my dad's first chef in Dallas of all places, right? Who was from Campania, Calabria border, and so there was a story behind it, but it was but like we were doing testing in the test kitchen upstairs. You say you have enough money to start it, you never do. You always have. There's always like overages. Like the construction took longer. We had wood burning grill, wood burning oven. NYPD doesn't want you to do that at all anymore. So that was a year behind. Every roadblock, Nidal, that you could have had, we had, and we'd already been operating at Rezdôra for 3 or 4 years. So we thought we had New York somewhat figured out. No,
No,
Non è possibile.
you never. I mean, same here in Miami. I was talking to Diego Oca yesterday. Your team was there at Lamar, and he told me he just ate at Massara.
Yep.
Told me how much he loved it.
He's so great, man.
Yeah.
Shout out Diego, yeah.
Great. And talking about a little bit what you're doing in Miami now, you're cooking with Bernardo tonight, and we were pulling his leg because he's a big Roma fan, and we're pulling his leg because you and I are Juventino.
Per forza.
And in that call, we were joking about doing like a bianconero pasta. My surprise, like a week later, they sent me the menu, so we have to like design it and print it in the menu. And I started laughing so at the office by myself, and everybody was like, "What's going on?" Like, this
That's it.
motherfucker put
Exactly
the
right.
bianconero pasta in the menu. Like,
There is nothing. I cannot wait for Bernardo to serve the bianco nero pasta tonight. That is going to make me so happy. I'm going to take 18 photos. We're going to post everywhere.
exactly.
So we always, there's a huge rivalry, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Francesco Totti was one of the best players of all time, right?
Yeah.
And so like
They just tied 1-1 this Sunday, Roma Juventus. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit not disappointed, but I mean the old days of Juve. I miss those. Of course, Del Piero for me was
the king.
Yeah, and seeing now the team struggling, ups and downs. Sometimes I look at the Alienazione, what's it called?
Yeah, you're right,
And
yeah.
I recognize half the names. I'm like, what's going on?
Yep.
But
because
I mean,
with Pirlo, Gianluigi Buffon, Del Piero days, like, you know, I mean, there's any way to put it than like those were the glory days, right?
yeah.
Campioni del mondo.
Esatto.
Esatto,
Alla
además,
grande.
yeah, and on top of that, you're Juventino too, no? You were talking about
I'm
it.
Basque, actually.
Cut, edit that. We were like, what's crazy is that Italia has not even qualified for World Cup in 8 years.
Yeah, it's crazy, no?
Unbelievable.
And you see also, even in the champions, now Inter, I think, is in the quarterfinals.
Yep.
But, I mean, it's all like, I mean, I hate Real Madrid. They're always there in the final or win it. But it's all about like Spanish, British, English teams. And you don't see that many. I mean, maybe Inter is the one that has been playing the best in the Champions League lately. But yeah, I miss those glorious days of the Serie A, the Calcio.
The best.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a time in Serie A when Cagliari, when my father's from Sardinia, when like that Cagliari of all the smallest team was actually doing well, and it's like,
wow.
That's just like. But we always talk about the glory days, right? And even with like, you know, soccer for like the World Cup when like, I mean, you know, 80, 82, you know, 96. Like these are like these years that you never. And Roberto Baggio when he missed like the I mean, I can't even talk about that. It's like I remember sitting with my dad at like 2 a.m. watching that. It's unbelievable.
I remember once. This was many years ago. Probably, wow, 90s. Yeah, late 90s maybe. I had an amazing friend. He. Rest in peace. He passed away a while ago. Riccardo Raciti. We went together to school here in the U.S. He was from Roma. He was a huge Roma fan, and he was living in New York at the time. And I went once to visit him, and we went. Of course, the Calcio in Sundays in New York. Some games were like at 8 a.m.
Yep.
No, so we wake up early. We go to this bar. There was a Inter Milan game, so we go to this restaurant at 8 a.m. And inside, like we opened, like it was super bright outside. We opened the door. It was like dark. All these old guys smoking. So it was like smoke all over the air. Watching the game, like espressos.
8 la mattina, 8 in
Yeah,
the
it
morning.
was like a gate to
A film.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And that was like Sunday, 8 a.m. in New York.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Go ahead. Yeah, you don't see that, right?
Yeah, you don't see that anymore.
That's so. But I mean, those things you can still find stuff like that in New York. But that's what makes New York so. It's got such history. You have so many cultures. There's every bar stands for something. You know.
Yeah, it's great, and I mean the rhythm of the city. It's just it's unique. I mean, I compare it. I love London. I spend a lot of time of London. I compare New York with London. But other than that, like even Miami, we say it's busy, it's getting there. You still, it's a different pace, no?
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of Miami, how do you see? I mean, you were talking earlier that you like it here so much. We live here and we experience what's going on firsthand. How do you see Miami from New York, or every time you come, like have you seen an evolution? And is that evolution like on the right track? Like, what do you like about what's going on in Miami? And is there anything that you don't like about what's going on in Miami?
So everyone moved. So many people from New York moved down COVID, right? And so we stayed in New York during COVID, but we came to visit. Like, we've always had people come down. Always asked us to come down. I have friends down here from like university, from college, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are from here, and so. The last 10 years, like I came here first. I think I was 21, and we used to go to restaurant Barton G. You guys have Barton? Do you remember that Barton G?
I've never been, but I don't know.
They were doing like some crazy food or something, right? It was pretty good. But that at that time, I mean, listen, club scene, whatever. Like I used to go out till like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I mean, so fun. You know, make no mistake. But that's all you knew about Miami, and maybe 1 or 2 good restaurants, right? Now, things are changing. Japanese, Peruvian, you guys probably lead the charge here, right? Yeah. This is probably the epicenter. New York, they definitely, the Lama Sun guys are doing a lot up there as well. So the question is this, is what do you see bad? What do you see good? I think it's different. I don't know. What do you see bad? I don't know. I think what I've heard, the staffing can be very tough here, right? And to have cooks and or people that are dedicated to doing this industry for their life, I hear is more difficult here, right? I don't have firsthand experience, but for me, what's so great about New York is that people want to do this for a living up there, and they're dedicated and they're focused, and like that is for everything, right? Yeah. So maybe like they have to work on that in Miami, like
especially in front of the house. You don't see that like commitment as a career to be like a front of the house professional, no?
And I've got a good friend that started an AI company 1 block north of us at Rezdôra on 21st, and he just got a bunch of funding. We talk about the future all the time, right? And everyone's dealing with it now, right? Yeah. And so like you talk about those things that AI will never be able to reproduce. It's the human touch and this experience of like making people feel good and like making them happy. Like now more than ever, to be in hospitality, you're going to have a leg up in the next 5, 10, 15 years in some form or another, aside from doing a job that can be automated, because you can't automate making people feel good, right? You can't automate putting delicious food out there. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, I think now is an incredible time to be in this industry. I love this industry. Very tough sometimes, but like people should start becoming dedicated. They should be putting in the hours. They should be putting in these things to make them great.
Absolutely. And I think the good thing about Miami is we're starting to see, I mean, there's a lot of money flowing in and opening huge restaurants, but you see like local restaurants, local teams doing amazing things. And then on top of that, you have the Bernardo's or other concepts that, even though they are concepts that come from other places, they have like a strong commitment to connect with the local community, work with local producers, and I think that that makes a difference.
Huge.
No? Yeah. Amazing. And talking now, let's move a little bit to Italy, and I'm so looking forward. I have never been to Sicily. I have a wedding there in June, so looking forward to this. Do you go often to Italy? And when you go, like, do you take your kids, your family? You make sure you have many relatives there. Like, how's that connection, and how does that connection provides you feedback to what you're doing in New York?
So Lucy's here. She's like our head of our business, and she helps to put all the trips together. And she's so tired of me. Yeah, he's like 4 to 5 times in Italy a year at least. Yeah, so at least 4 to 5 times, and I go back all the time. Not only because all my family's over there still, cousins in Torino, cousins in Sardinia and Lombardia, but like I think, and one of the main reasons why we moved to New York is because Italy is so important. It's 6.5, 7 hours away from us. Like it's close, For us, that's close. And so I go back all the time, and my kids always go back with me at least once. I have to do a tour in October. I have to go again for a wedding in Emilia Romagna in June. We're going again in July. All the time, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, we'll do something back in the homeland. Eventually, yeah.
What about Miami? Do you foresee doing something in Miami? Because there's a love for Miami from looking at Miami from outside of
Sure.
Miami. It looks very sexy. The weather is taking out the summer that is brutal. The weather is nice. There's a lot of money flowing around. Is that something that you would think about?
I mean, there has to be a story, right? There has to be a story to tell. I think, and we say this, like Will Gadara is a good friend of mine in the industry, and we always talk about like reasoning to open up places. And I mean, our group, we're very lucky. People come and ask us, like, hotels, we want to build this out for you. Just come and you, blah blah blah. And it's like, if we can't, it just doesn't make sense unless we can do something with a nice story behind. So
Nice.
maybe, I mean, I love it here. I don't, but there's got to be a great story. The thing that for us is fundamental is that we want to build spaces that first and foremost take care of the neighborhood, right? So we don't want to be this huge, like flashy restaurant that's like there for 5 years and ciao.
Yeah.
For us, it's like incredible food, amazing service, making people feel incredible, great ambiance, amazing playlist. You build these people that become your friends. I mean, that's it.
And it's great that you mentioned that there must be a story behind, because, I mean, they're opening many restaurants in Miami, maybe a little bit more than what the city can support or sustain in terms of clientele, staff, everything. And every other restaurant that they open here is Italian. But as you mentioned, like, what's the story behind it? Like, why is this Italian restaurant different from the one that opened 2 blocks away 3 weeks ago? No, so that's important. Like, that story behind each concept, I think, is what makes the difference. We at Glutonomy, the agency, like, that's where we start when we're working on a brand for a restaurant or something. We go deep into
The story
and everything, and that's what decants is that decant on anything anything else. So
you're right.
I'm glad that you think that way, because that's what gives longevity to a concept.
We cook very regional cuisine, right? So like Italia has 20 different regions, and so unless you're going to do really high-end fine dining where you do pan-regional, or like there's so many pan-Italian restaurants that exist, right?
And when you go to Italy, like, the regional thing is no joke. I remember we were there that was like 3 years ago. We were in Reggio Emilia, which is half an hour from Modena, and we were having tortellini, no? And we were talking to the chef, and I think we asked them, like, if he puts mortadella on the tortellini. No, that's a Modena thing.
It's true.
And it's like, it's half an hour away. Like,
it's a big fight, too. It's an argument.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
So when you talk about regional, it's to that extent. It's amazing. It's crazy. But bueno, I don't know, Stefano, if you want to share anything else. I know you have a super busy agenda. You arrive super late. You're doing dinner tonight. We're doing lengua tomorrow. Then you're flying to Minneapolis, which I'm going to ask you. I'm going there next month. I'll text you later you can give me some tips in Minneapolis. I've never been. So anything else you want to share?
No, I mean, just, thanks for having. I think that moving forward, and I don't know if your listeners are in the industry. I hope so, but like it's one of those things where we continually talk about just the next generation, 2 or 3 reserves below us need to start. You should just focus. It's an amazing industry, right? And just put the time in to do something very special, and then it's going to pay off later down the road. But no, thank you for having it. Thanks to the history. I mean, I can't wait to cook with Bernardo again.
Oh, yeah,
we go way back.
Absolutely. And where can people find you? So you are Rezdôra and Massara in New York.
Yep.
what's your like the social of the restaurants, so they can follow and check it out?
Stefano_Secchi for the gram. They tell me I have to get on TikTok. I'm not on yet, but eventually. And then Rezdôra.nyc and Massara.nyc, and we're in Flatiron in the city, so it's
amazing, great. Amazing. Looking forward to be back soon.
Certo.
And thanks for coming. Thanks for making time
of course.
For this. And thank you everybody for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Remember to subscribe, to follow us on YouTube. Adrian here is always making me signs that I need to mention all the platforms where you can find us. So thanks again for your support. And until next one. Thanks. Bye.
Grande. Bravo.
Thank you.
Tanta roba.
No, grazie.
That was great.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a te. That was great. Now we
How
have
was it?
Now we have to get in the kitchen,